the biggest thing this week was Spotify Wrapped. They actually released Spotify Wrapped a little earlier than we had anticipated, John. So
Yeah, I thought maybe another week or so.
I figured we had at least a week or two to go. But
I've got a whole nother month of listening. Don't tell me what my year was.
that's the thing too. Like, I guess December just doesn't matter.
December doesn't matter. Yeah.
Anyways, we're gonna be
I
sharing our
heard
list.
some possible shenanigans going on the podcast side of things.
Oh yeah. What is it in relation to what Apple says is popular and what Spotify says is popular?
No, just people's were debating whether their Spotify podcast
Got you.
lists were correct.
Got you.
Because mine didn't look correct.
I think mine are correct, but I also don't listen. I only listen to a certain amount of shows on Spotify. I mainly listen on Apple Podcasts. So I do want to talk about top podcasts because that was included in the Spotify Wrap. So let's talk about that when we get there.
Well, this one was obviously number one.
Well, yeah, of course.
I love myself.
Actually, it wasn't number one for me on Spotify.
It wasn't for me either.
It did.
I'll be honest.
It did crack the top 5. I will say that.
I listened to it at 3x.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do we sound really good or sound like chipmunks? Okay, cool.
Even more than we do normally.
All right, John, let's get into the Spotify Wrap stuff. So while you're pulling up your stuff, Billboard released an article this week and kind of going over Spotify's most streamed artist of 2023. So I think we all know who topped number 1, but I'm going to start. So for most streamed artists globally, I'm going to start at number 10.
I want to guess.
Okay. Okay. There's a top 10 list, so go ahead.
I already
Let's
know
do
what
this.
number 1 is and 2. So
All right. So what's 1 and 2?
Taylor Swift and Bad Bunny.
Oh, very good. And in that order. Okay. And so who's 3 through 10? Who do you got?
You're
not
not
gonna get these.
Morgan Wallen's in one of those spots.
No, he's not.
No?
Not in most streamed artists globally.
Okay.
This isn't America.
Oh,
either.
globally, yeah. Beyonce then.
Actually, no, she's not on there either. I wonder if there is.
Fuck me.
Yeah, there's nothing on here about
Well, I got one.
just American. All right, so number 10, Lana Del Rey. 9, Karol G. 8, SZA. 7, Travis Scott. 6, Fade. I don't know. 5,
Oh yeah, why didn't I get that?
Peso Pluma. 4, Drake. 3, The Weeknd. 2,
I
Bad
coulda
Bunny.
got
And
Drake.
1, Taylor Swift.
The Weeknd still?
The Weeknd still, yeah.
He
Now,
had that show, but I didn't know he had any music.
let's see. So they also released the most streamed songs globally. And Taylor Swift does not top this list.
No.
This one's kind of hard. So, I mean, when we're talking globally,
Yeah, it could be K-pop. It could be anything.
yeah, and I think there are, in Latin music, K-pop is probably going to hit the list. And I'm not well versed in Latin music. So,
I really only have a base level knowledge of Latin music.
yeah. So number 10, we have Antihero by Taylor Swift. Shakira came in at number 9 with something. No, wait. Shakira Bizarre Music Sessions Volume 53 is the song by
Yep.
Bizarrap and Shakira. Okay. Anyways, Calm Down by Selena Gomez. Creepin' by The Weeknd and 21 Savage. Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift comes in at number 6. Ella Biasolo is a Latin person.
Oh, you nailed it.
Esteban Armado and Peso Pluma. I think I did that pretty good, probably.
Yeah, it's just so natural.
Yeah. Anyways, number 4 was 7 featuring Lotto by Jung Kook. And then, John, your favorite, number 3, As It Was by Harry Styles. Number 2,
Good track.
Kill Bill by SZA. And then number 1, Flowers by Miley Cyrus.
Oh, Miley. That was a popular song, yeah.
I do have the most popular podcasts up globally, but you want to go
what
ahead and
did
go
we-
over those real quick?
Do we make top 10?
We didn't make that list. I bet we're probably a top, like the 11th one, but it's a top 10, so they only show the top
Yeah.
10.
We can find the full list somewhere.
Yeah, right.
We'll let
It's
people
fine.
know next week.
Yeah. Yeah, so the most popular podcasts globally are, of course, from Spotify is The Joe Rogan Experience, Call Her Daddy, which both of those are Spotify exclusives. And then you've got number 3, Huberman Lab, Number 4 is Anything Goes with Emma Chamberlain, which I've tried to get into that podcast, and it's not for me. At least some of the episodes I listen to. Number 5 is On Purpose with Jay Shetty. Number 6 is Crime Junkie. You're going to have some of those crime shows on there.
Oh, yeah.
Number 7. This one's one of my favorite podcasts. This past week. Oh, geez. This past weekend with Theo Vaughn. I don't know if you've ever listened to that, John, but I recommend it.
Yeah. I don't always like him, but he has moments. I know. Sometimes it doesn't do it for me.
I know what you mean. He's not your typical interviewer. He doesn't do hardly any research, it sounds like. He sounds like a kid that's just wanting to know. Like he's just asking whatever question comes to mind, which is fine. But it's just so, to me, why I like it is that it's just so genuine. And he's funny. Like he'll throw in some good, some good jokes in there every once in a while, as we do on this podcast, just like you, John.
No, I don't mind him. I just I don't always get it.
Oh, got you. But
I get it, but it doesn't always do it for me.
But he comes from like a small town, and
he's weird.
It doesn't have a lot, and so that going in, and then it all just kind of makes sense. But anyways, number 8, we got Serial Killers, another crime show. Then 9, The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett, and then number 10, TED Talks Daily, which I don't get into those either. So
it depends what the topic is. So,
John, let's go ahead and share our own. I have a couple things. Let's see, a couple categories, I guess. And let's start with top genre. What do you got for top genre?
Well, I'm going to start at the bottom. So my 5th top genre is jazz saxophone.
Really?
So, obviously, I have a lot of sex.
Okay. Yes, obviously.
Even more so, soul, number 4.
Really? Okay.
Down and dirty. 3, emo. So I'm sad about it.
All right, you're coming in.
2, rock.
Okay.
And number 1 is jazz.
Number 1's jazz. But the first one was what? Number 5 was what?
Jazz saxophone.
Jazz saxophone. Okay.
So that makes me think of Kenny G, but I don't. It's not smooth jazz. It just happens to be, vintage, 60s and 50s jazz is my usual spot, but probably just leading with saxophone players. I don't know.
Very interesting. Now I'm more interested to hear who your top artists and top albums are.
Okay. That's not going to reflect anything about jazz, so.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Maybe we could talk about that in a little bit.
We can. Oh. I can tell you why it's that way. I know why.
All right, so for my top genres, and starting at number 5, we've got post-grunge. We've got number 4, contemporary country. Number 3, and is contemporary? That's more like modern,
like what's modern.
Yeah, what's going on today. Number 3, we've got rock. Number 2, pop punk, and then number 1 is pop rock, which sounds about right for me. Mm-hmm. All right, so I have no qualms with that generated list of mine.
It seems correct to me.
Now, do you have...
keep in mind for my list, I review a lot of my records that I have at home. I'll kind of when I'm going through and thinning out collection, I'll review stuff while I'm listening on Spotify.
Gotcha.
See, this is still vibing with me. So I probably listen to a lot of different artists, and that's why none of the jazz artists will make my top artist list, but the genre itself would be up high.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Because most of my record collection is jazz. So,
what about your listening hours? Do you have that tracked at all?
Sure. Can we do city first?
Sure. Yeah. What's the city that you had?
I'm Asheville, North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay, so we're both East Coast. Mine is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And
that's not too far.
I mean, yeah. I wish it would go into more detail as to why it picked that.
It just lists three artists that were likely to be fans from that, cities likely to be fans of.
I feel like one of mine, and I can't remember, but I feel like one of mine was that was in, similar to Pittsburgh, was like Third Eye Blind or something. I don't even think Third Eye Blind made my list on anything, which is weird. But anyways, what about listening hours?
Get into it.
I'll go ahead and share mine. Mine was, are you ready for this? I feel like this was more than last year, and I don't even know what last year's was. Actually, do you want to take a guess at what mine was? Because I feel like this is a lot.
I'm going to say 33,000.
It's much higher, man.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
80,363 minutes.
Good Lord.
It says top 2% of listeners worldwide. My listening peaked on May 24th at 597 minutes.
Did you fall asleep with it on or something?
So
Do you ever fall asleep with Spotify on?
No, I don't. I mean, while I'm working, I'm constantly listening to music. So, that's 8 hours a day.
600 minutes is
easily.
10 hours, so.
So 8 hours a day at work and then commuting to and from work. Like it's just, it's always on. I'm always listening to music. So that seems like a really high number though. I mean, top 2%, I guess it is. All right. What's yours?
46,034 minutes.
Okay. All right.
And so 31 days total.
Oh,
peaking at January 30th. 454 minutes.
Nice. Okay. All right. So let's move on.
Top 6%, bitch.
Hey, that's good. You're in the top 10. That's what's up. What about top artists?
Hot Moly.
Hot Mulligan.
Hot Mulligan.
Well, what about, okay, so that's your top artists, but what were your top artists? Your top 5?
Hold on, I'll let you know. I should have that memorized, but I don't.
While you're looking that up, I'll go over mine. So I'm kind of embarrassed at my top 1, to be honest. But coming in at number 5 is Story of the Year, which they make quite the impression on my top 5 songs list. Then number 4 is Blink. Number 3 is Mod Sun. Number 2 is Green Day. And then coming in at number 1, can you guess, John?
Blink?
No, Blink was number 4.
Sorry, I was going through my slides.
Oh, okay. So it's us. Yeti 242 came in at number 1.
My God, you may be our only top.
No, it's set. So like obviously Yeti's I'm the top, one of the top listeners, but it just said I was like in the top 5%. So I don't know what that means. If I'm not in like the top, I should be in the top 1%, I would think. But I mean, I understand
maybe
that
20 different people listen to us and you're the top one?
Maybe. But I guess, I mean, it makes sense, I guess, because I obviously care a lot about our band and I like the songs that we put out. And we did put out a live show as an album. So I was listening to that because it's got our newest, not our newest, but our most latest songs that we never got to record professionally. So those are out there. So, it's a way, I like nostalgia and I like to go back and remember the good old days. So that makes sense. And plus so I have a pop punk playlist that I play quite a bit and literally all of our songs are on that playlist. So we come up
through there too. Yeah.
We come up frequently for me. So.
All right. I've got my top 5.
All right. What are they?
Number 5 is Wonder Years. So that's a carryover from last year. They're probably a little bit higher last year, I would think.
Yeah, I think they were.
Blink is number 4.
Hey, they were 4 for me too.
I did a lot of listening to the new stuff and some, trips down nostalgia lane.
Kind of makes you wonder if they would have even cracked our top 5 had they not come out with a new album.
I know. I doubt it, but maybe.
I doubt it too.
I was surprised that Sweet Pill didn't make it because I listened to that album a ton like the last few months, but didn't quite make it. But they had to be close. Joyce Manor is number 3, band I really like.
Oh, really? I didn't know you were really that into them.
Yeah. So their most recent album was last year, but kind of went back and bought a couple other their albums. Really like it. A lot of short songs, so vibes well with me. The OCs is number 2. That's not shocking.
Makes sense.
Saw them again for the second straight year in Chicago, so did a lot of listening to them before and after concerts. And Hot Mulligan number 1.
Yeah, I think I could have guessed your number 1. I would have.
Yeah, it's album of the year for sure. So.
Oh, John's giving it away
Spoiler
already. We
alert.
haven't even had that
Yeah,
episode
it's
yet.
nothing even close. So
Okay. I will say that album grew on me. It grew on me, but it's not going to be my top album for sure.
lyrically, it's just the more I kind of dive into it and read lyrics and stuff like that, I think it's even stronger.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, John, let's move to top songs. What are your top 5 songs? And I'm curious to know.
They're all from Hot Mulligan. I remember that.
Are they really? Okay.
Yeah, they're all from that album. Where's the 5-song one?
I think it must come after artists, maybe.
Yeah, if you did it in that order, I think. Yeah.
I think I did them in that order. I don't think I just did it from memory.
Oh, it's podcasts.
It should be one of the first ones because it was one of the first
Yeah, I got
things
it.
that I
I found it
screen
at
grabbed.
the end.
Okay. All right, so what do you got? First, top songs. Number 5.
Shush Golf is on is number
Mulligan.
1.
Oh, that's number 1.
Gans Media Retro Games or whatever it's called is number 2. I can't read the full titles, of course, because
That's fine.
Stupid. Shouldn't have something or other. It's number 3.
So these
Hold on,
really
I'll
are
find
all
it.
Hot Mulligan songs. It's fine.
Yeah. Then I think it's this song is called What It's Called. And No Shoes in the Coffee Shop.
That's crazy.
Something.
That's crazy.
They
dude.
didn't have such weird titles.
Are you surprised by that list though? That all 5 of your top.
I was
songs,
surprised at all 5, but I guess I guess I listened to that album a lot.
That's how I feel about my top songs. So here's mine. Number 5, "Tear Me to Pieces," Story of the Year. Number 4, "Take the Ride," Story of the Year. Number 3, "Real Life," Story of the Year. Number 2, it's a Sweet Child of Mine cover from a band called Music Travel Love, which I think it's a really great cover. They're an acoustic duo. They do really great covers. I really recommend you guys check them out if you're into acoustic covers. They came in at number 2. And then number 1 was "War" by Story of the Year. And it said at one point that my peak listening, one of my peak listening months, I think, was March. Yeah, March. And that's when Story of the Year was my peak artist at that time because they were coming out with all these singles. I guess it makes sense, too, the rollout of these singles, too, because they rolled out probably 4 or 5 singles before the album came out. And I remember liking every one of these songs. But one of the songs, I think "War," my top one, it said I listened to it like 104 times. Like, whoa. I feel like I had to have left it on repeat at some point because I was surprised by that number. And I'm just surprised that no other band's songs entered my top 5 than those. I mean, I'm going to have to look back at that album when I'm thinking of album of the year because I remember liking about, 5 or 6 songs off that album. A lot.
Yeah, my top played song was only played 21 times, so.
Jeez. Yeah, I feel like I had to. It's possible that I had, I went to lunch or something and Spotify was just playing that album over and over, like the 4 songs that were released at the time or something. So that would make the most sense.
Yeah, that was something about that Hot Mulligan album. They only released 2 songs before the album came out, I think.
You must have really just liked it then. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
the 2 that were released earlier are the top 2, so.
yeah. So
It's
what
a good
type?
record.
It's it's not bad. And I was not a huge Hot Mulligan fan at the start of the year, but you've kind of convinced me and got me to listen to them, check in on them a little bit more, and they definitely grow on me. They're not my style per se, but there's something about them that is really good, and I do have a lot of respect for them because they're supposedly a really great live band, and from what I've seen from like live YouTube videos, hands down, they're one of the greatest live bands in the scene, I would say. So what kind of music listener are you? Did you get that?
Getting it right now.
I was, while you're looking at that, I was The Alchemist.
Oh.
Listening is your laboratory. You create your own playlists more than other listeners do. Nice work, Doc. I do rely heavily on my curated playlists that I've made, more so than any of the Spotify playlists.
I am a hypnotist.
Okay, so what does
My
that mean?
concentration is absolute, friend. You like to play albums all the way through, from the opening track to the final note. That is true. I am an album guy. Obviously.
Yeah, no, that's good. And that's interesting too, because I've been thinking of going back and listening to albums that I used to love. Like, I don't know, grab Sticks and Stones from Newfound and just turn it on and just listen to the whole thing. And I did that a lot with Green Day this year. I know that. Like, I'd listen to Dookie, I'd listen to Nimrod all the way through a couple times. Yeah, I think I want to start doing that this year. I think that's
there's something about
goal.
hearing it in order, and you have that anticipation of what the next song's going to be because you have that memory of playing it,
Yeah,
sequentially.
that, and you don't get that anymore, I feel like, because we're so heavily, like, it's just single after single after single just comes out, and you don't really, I don't know, albums today are just different from albums than they were 10 years ago and beyond. And I think it's just because of how we consume the album. Like, back before streaming and stuff, there was only one way to listen to the album, and that was you go out, you buy the record that you've never heard yet, and you just play it from 1 to 12 or whatever it was, and that was the experience.
People didn't always view it as like a piece of art. So
right.
Originally it was just a collection of whatever songs you had. So until the mid '60s, I don't think people were thinking of it in terms of one kind of solid piece of art. So
yeah, right.
But
all right.
I tend to be more critical of things just because I want to view it that way. So if I'm overly critical of stuff, it's usually because I'm trying to absorb it as a singular piece of work.
Yeah, no, totally. All right, so the last category on here, John, is your top podcasts. So are you primarily a Spotify podcaster, or are you more of an Apple Music or Apple Podcast podcaster?
It's mostly Spotify.
Okay.
But I also do a lot of YouTube.
Okay.
So podcasts with like a video element. I do watch most of it on YouTube.
Okay. I do that sometimes.
But I do have my top 5.
All right. You got it pulled up?
Yep. Top 5, starting number 5 is All Punked Up Podcast.
Yes.
Goddamn right.
We made it.
Number 4, Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. It's a sports kind of comedy podcast. I watch it every day, so
okay.
That's always going to be up there.
Every day and coming in at number 4. Interesting.
Well, that's the one that has a YouTube.
Got you.
Element. So now I'll mostly just throw it to the side of my second screen and just kind of listen, watch it.
Yep.
Because they have a lot of visual element stuff, so it's better to almost watch the YouTube. Because if they're reacting to something funny and it's visual, kind of want to see it.
Right. Absolutely.
3 is another Le Batard product, Mystery Crate. So that's like all their secondary characters have a show they do on Fridays.
Cool.
So it's like a behind the scenes kind of thing, but just kind of irreverent. Number 2 is an odd one. It's called the Patrice O'Neal Archive.
Oh.
So he was a comedian that was on Opie and Anthony quite a bit. So somebody compiled all the episodes of Opie and Anthony did, which is about 140 of them. So I will tend to play those at night when I'm going to sleep.
Nice.
Because it's funny, and then I can just kind of fall asleep to it. And number 1 is another Le Batard product called Basketball Illuminati.
Interesting.
So they kind of have a conspiracy theory side to what happens in the NBA. So they started off doing like historical NBA things, like controversial things that happened in the NBA from the past, and now they just talk about what's going on in the NBA now.
Gotcha. Well, that's cool. Yeah, our podcast listening is different for sure. Although you had the Patrice O'Neal one, you got some comedy in there. I definitely like my comedy. So keep in mind, guys, this is only my Spotify. I do primarily listen on Apple Podcasts, and I'll share some of my favorites from there. I didn't do like the Apple Music replay or whatever. That's the equivalent to the Spotify Wrapped, but I'll share some of mine just so you know. Number 5. And I'm surprised this one even makes a list. And I don't listen a lot on Spotify to a bunch of podcasts, but Good For You from Whitney Cummings is number 5. Call Her Daddy, number 4. I don't really listen to that often, but if she has somebody on that's interesting, I'll take a listen. Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard, I don't really listen to that much either. So I feel like this is just kind of a list of things that I've listened to, a couple podcast episodes or whatever. Number 2, the All Punked Up podcast. And if you guys are wondering why, it makes our list, we already know what happens in the episode. We do have to listen back to the episode to make sure that there's no issues or anything. I like to make sure that everything was good once it reached the platforms. Plus, I do sometimes like to listen to some of John's jokes, listen for John's jokes. And sometimes, John, I've noticed that listening, I miss some of your jokes that you say. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? Like I'll be talking.
Thank you.
I'll be talking and you'll say something, but I'm just not listening to you.
Well, I want to squeeze them in because sometimes if you hold on to it too long, it's just not as good.
Right. So I feel like you guys get I guess I get the same experience you guys get listening to it. So, because, I'm trying to concentrate on what I'm trying to say as opposed to just listening. So,
and if one doesn't hit, I trust that you just edit it out. So,
right. Yeah. And I will. But, and then number 1,
I need to be perfect.
Number 1 for me for top podcast is the Joe Rogan Experience. I really do like that podcast. I listen to that on Spotify quite a bit. He has new episodes, I think, on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So I'm always usually checking those out, especially if he has other comedians on or any weird like conspiracy theory type people on.
Sure.
I like that stuff.
I just don't have time to listen to podcasts as much. I mean, the Levitard show is 3.5 hours every day. So, I mean, that takes a huge chunk.
Right. Especially if you listen to the whole damn thing. But on Apple Podcasts, I like Steve-O's Wild Ride. I like Conan O'Brien's podcast, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. Tiger Belly is really good. I don't know if you've listened to that.
I love Bobby Lee. Yeah.
Bobby Lee's hilarious. I've listened to Artist Friendly. It's the Joel Madden's show, Joel Madden from Good Charlotte. I think that's kind of like an alt press type thing. I don't know. He does pretty good, though. Two Bears, One Cave is probably one of my favorites. Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura. And then this past weekend with Theo Vaughn is another one that I listened to on here. So,
yeah, I wish the Bill Burt podcast still existed. I like that one, and it kind of just fell apart.
Doesn't he have the Monday morning podcast still?
No, the one he did with Bert Kreischer.
Oh, got
Bill
you.
And Bert,
yeah. I wonder. I mean, Bert got busy too, so makes sense.
Well, I think they had an issue and falling out or something.
Oh, really? So. That's sad. Mm-hmm. But yeah, all right, guys. So that's our Spotify Wrapped. I hope that wasn't too embarrassing for us. I don't think it was. But yeah, guys. So that'll do it. John, you got anything else to add?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well,
next year I'm going to write down all my information so I don't have to watch it like a weenie.
What do you mean? Oh yeah, write down your results. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think even last year I took screenshots. I'm just lazy. I'm a lazy ass.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't taking screenshots until this morning when I told you that.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, so right before we started
that makes
recording.
Me feel a little bit better. I'm thinking about poop.
All right. Well, John, we should probably close out so you can go ahead and do that.
Coffee just ran right through me.
Oh, my goodness.
My God.
All right.
Get the toilet brush ready.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, as always. Please, if you have the time, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and or on Spotify. Those 5-star reviews really do go a long way. It lets people like you find this stuff like us. We really want more listeners just like you. So if you could help us, those 5-star reviews really go a long way. Tell your friends, tell your wife, tell your husband, tell your grandma, pets. I don't care. Just tell everybody about us. It really does help us grow. So with that, guys, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.
Merch store.
Merch store. Always hit up the merch store, shop.allpunkedup.com. We still have some of the Christmas stuff available. That's only going to be available till December 8th. December 8th. Last time you could get a shirt that says Happy Holidays, you bastard, and then you can also get one that says Big Nick Energy. So
hey,
get them.
Happy Holidays, you bastard could be any holiday.
Very true, except it does have Santa on it.
Doesn't have to be Christmas. Well, that hurts my argument.
Well, maybe I'll make some for the 4th of July.
Arbor Day.
Arbor Day.
Just put if it's a Christmas tree, it could do Arbor Day and Christmas.
That's true. That's true. Anyways, guys,
I'm
we're
an
out.
idea man.
We're out. See ya.